Hi everybody, I'm Rachel and welcome back to Conversations with Dental Friends, the podcast for dental professionals who want more from their careers than just clocking in and out. Whether you're here to grow, pivot or just feel a little more inspired in your day-to-day, you're in the right place. This week I'm having a bit of a fangirl moment because I'm joined by none other than Michaela O'Neill, a name that every dental hygienist should know, and if you don't yet, you're about to find out why. Michaela is a registered dental hygienist and past president of BSDHT, who has done more for our profession than most of us realise, including playing a direct role in changing government legislation. No big deal. Although Michaela has stepped away from the clinical chair, her impact on the world of dental hygiene and beyond is still absolutely massive. Honestly, this episode was just as much for me as it is for you. I forgot we were recording half the time because the conversation was just that good. So if you've ever wondered how your role as a hygienist or a therapist could stretch beyond the surgery into education, industry, brand partnerships, or even policy making, this one is going to blow your mind. Let's dive in. Welcome, Michaela, to Conversations with Dental Friends. Thank you so much for being part of my podcast today. I am beyond delighted that you are here. Let's start from the very beginning. How did you find yourself on the dentistry merry-go-round, and take us through your journey so far?
Grant. Well, first of all, Rachel, thank you so much for asking me to do this.
You're very welcome.
As I've said to you, I'm very honoured and flattered that you've asked me to do it. So let me see, dentistry. I fell into it. I think most of us fell into it. When I was in school, I think now I most definitely would have had my diagnosis for dyslexia plus other stuff, but at the time I didn't. So it was always, Michaela is capable of doing much better. Much better than this. Why is she not getting the results she should be getting? So I didn't excel. So after my A-levels, I came out of school. And in those days, they had this scheme called the YTP scheme. And they offered me 2 jobs to get this funding. One of them was to clean the brand new toilets in Castlewellan. And the other one was to be a dental nurse, to do dental nurse training. Okay? So they were the 2 things that I got offered.
So there was only one choice, really?
Well, yes. Little did I know I'd end up dealing with most of the same bacteria as time went on. But there was only one choice. I did then go on and do a dental nurse training scheme within the job role, which is what it was all about.
Yes.
And when I was doing it, I did always feel, I could do what that dentist is doing. I know I could. I can do that. I could do it. The difference being, obviously, I didn't have the academic background to go back and go training. So I did look as to what was to be the next step for me, because I did need to have a job that I knew would keep me in the style I would like to become accustomed to.
Yes, I feel you. I hear you 100%.
So I did then. In those days, there was no training at all for hygienists in the north or the south of Ireland. You had to go to England or Scotland or Wales, whatever, but you could not train here. So I got a bursary, which was fantastic, and I went to King's College Hospital because they were the ones that had the only school that had 100% pass rate. So I thought at the time right, I'll definitely go on there, because if they can get everybody else through, they'll get me through.
I don't even think I looked at a pass rate. That was a very astute thing to look for at a course. I don't even think that was on my radar. I wish I had looked at that. I did pass. but that's good for Kings.
Yes, really, at that stage, yeah, it definitely was. It was a great course. Mm-hmm. I mean, very short compared to today's standards, but I would say that I've definitely done all of the training up till now to keep me well versed in what hygienists are doing at the moment. But yeah, it was great. It was really good. I enjoyed that. I worked in the London hospital as a dental nurse while I was waiting to do my training. Mm-hmm. I was travelling and stuff, went to the States, did all that kind of, travelled loads actually, loved it. And then came back to the hygiene. And I had a lot of friends from my life living in London as a dental nurse in the dental world. So that's really where I led down my roots. Yeah, that's how I fell into dentistry. That's where I ended up here.
And did you work in London for a while then after?
I did indeed, yeah. I did a house job at King's for a while after I graduated, and I worked in practice, which was a national health practice, and I was with them when they transferred to private hygiene, because then we could actually do the work that we needed to do for patients.
Yes.
So it was a big move. I did a lot of temping work as well in the city, in Harley Street and the like. So saw the opulence of some of those other practices. Very similar to what we're sitting in today, Rachel. So
It's a nice practice.
I can remember working once in a paediatric clinic, and it was just amazing. It had glass doors from floor to ceiling, and the patients, you had 90 minutes with each child to do toothbrushing instruction and fluoride trays. And then in those days, that must have been the early 2000s. No, before that, 90s. It was the 90s. Definitely.
And was that a private treatment for a child to come in?
Definitely, yes. Definitely. It was all. But that kind of, if you were looking from where I'd worked in NHS practice in Northern Ireland and then going to this kind of, wow, the world's, so different. So different.
So when did you come back to Northern Ireland then?
I came back in 97. Yeah, so it definitely was earlier in the 90s when I was there. Now, the middle to the end of 97. And I got a job supervising in the dental hospital for the hygiene school, which was good.
So the hygiene school was up and running then at that stage here. Yeah. Brilliant.
So shortly after I graduated, in 91, I think they just opened the first course in Dublin. But yeah, so then I came back here then and did my tutoring role in the dental hospital.
Brilliant.
Which I loved.
Brilliant. I know it's one of those things that whenever you're a dental student and you see a tutor, I think it's because it's your first exposure to where your career can go. You kind of think, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love to teach. I think because we teach every day, don't we?
Exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So it is definitely based on the fact that our whole job is around changing behaviours and teaching and encouraging people to be better. So, and it takes time, as we know. I think dental hygienists in particular do that incredibly well.
Brilliant. And were you working in practice and teaching, or was teaching full time at that stage?
I did that, yeah.
And did you work in practice in Belfast as well?
Yes, I did. I worked in a couple of practices. I worked with Eugene McMullen for a long time. And I did a bit of temping work for his wife, Fran. She was pregnant at the time. So I covered her maternity leave, and then I got some jobs and worked with different people and different things. Yeah.
And was it very different working in London to working in Belfast?
Yes. I hate to say it, but we were about 20 odd years behind what was happening in London. It wasn't even so much the materials, because some of the dentistry that I'd experienced here was excellent. That wasn't what it was about. It was more the attitude about skill mix in practice, respecting who you work for. And I was really fortunate that I worked in Eugene's practice, his wife obviously having been a dental hygienist, because he respected me as a clinician. And he didn't second guess you, didn't try to, I don't know, I've been in places where I was accused of being the person responsible for removing a filling falling out after I'd done the treatment. I'm going, but that filling wouldn't have fallen out if it was safe. I couldn't make that happen. Exactly. But when you're working with colleagues who don't really understand what you're doing, it's very, very difficult to get that.
And I expect there can be, now I feel like people are maybe a bit more open, but I'm sure whenever dental hygiene mustn't have been overly common in practice. There would only have been a few practices, I'm sure, because even whenever we think about 10 years ago to now, we nearly have the opposite problem where we have too much demand for hygiene, but I think it's
and no training.
Yes, which is a whole other issue for sure. Michaela, you've recently played a huge role in changing legislation for dental hygienists and dental therapists, which has been absolutely amazing for us, incredible. That's a massive career moment for you and for everyone. Can you tell us more about what that involved and how that's going to impact the industry?
Okay, it was rather huge, yes. Probably more so because it took 10 years to get there. It was something that became apparent after direct access. I was involved with BSDHT then, and Sally Simpson was the president and spearheaded the whole direct access movement on behalf of BSDHT. And after we did get direct access authorised by the GDC, it was very quick that we found out we needed to actually work on changing legislation around radiography or getting more clarity around the use of radiographs and diagnosis and stuff like that. And then also being able to use medicines again. Yes. I was trained to give local anaesthetic without needing a prescription. Okay.
So that's how it originated in those early days at King's College.
That's it.
there was no prescription.
As soon as I qualified, I qualified in September and I was back again in October because they just changed the legislation that we could do. It was infiltrations at that stage. Right? So I had been trained for that and we didn't need a prescription. And eventually a lady pharmacist who we have worked very closely with to help us with exemptions actually found that our names as professions weren't actually on the register of professionals that could use prescription-only medicines without a prescription.
Right.
Okay. So we knew that we needed to do something that was going to be beneficial for not just ourselves as clinicians, but obviously patients, for the practices that we work in. I mean, the amount of time that we have wasted knocking doors, asking for a prescription. It was, and turning patients away. We actually, interestingly, did an impact assessment as part of this process. The government did it, and they were able to monetize the amount of time wasted and never events and the like in practices and how much it costs. And they came out with a figure of about 18 million a year that was being done. Now, that's obviously through the whole UK,
but still, you don't have 18 million a year to waste.
Yeah, exactly. So it has got its benefits in many areas. It took a long time. 5 prime ministers. 5 different governments. Lots of steps forward and then even more so back. They actually changed the process on how it should be done in order to change the legislation halfway through as well. So when it did happen, it all happened fairly quickly. And I mean, sound very quickly, 10 years, but a bit of it was actually quite
It was like a quick birth at the end.
Yes, it was. It was indeed. Lots of labour. Yes. Big hard work. I know that some of the work that we did, we spent, oh my goodness, Fiona and I mean, we spent so much time. We give up a lot of ourselves, a lot of hard work. We worked way above and beyond, as you can imagine.
I can only, whenever I think about comprehending that amount of work that would be required and the impact report and how many hours and hours that would take alone, let alone...
we were told the piece of work that we did at the beginning of the case study actually would be equivalent to a master's. So that kind of shows you how much was put into it. So it was a lot of work done. But saying that, I think the two of us realised that this is what was best for the profession. It was needed. It was necessary.
It's a vocation, like a dharma.
Absolutely, Rachel. That's it.
It had to happen. I love that. And that's amazing. And I know so many of us listening to this as dental hygienists and dental therapists will have taken on the training. And I thought the training was really comprehensive and straightforward and insightful. And I really did enjoy it. That must have been such a pinch me moment for you. Are there any other standout moments in your career so far that really made you step back and think, wow, I did that?
There's lots.
I'm sure. I was going to say
I think one of the biggest ones for me that was a real pinch me moment was when I spoke at the opening of EuroPerio when it was in London.
Yes.
10,000 people.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Did you feel like Coldplay?
Oh. Yeah, right enough. I was so petrified. But in saying that, I was fortunate. I had a friend of mine who was on the radio here. And she wanted to start her own business. She said, I'll coach you I had a 3-minute speech.
Yes.
3 minutes is a really long time.
Yes.
And I was going, so she helped me slow down and pace my wording. And so it came across like I was really confident and clear, which I wasn't. But that was a real pinch me moment. I was so proud of that. I hated talking in public. I hate the limelight being on me. Believe it or not, I really don't like it. It's different if I'm actually there representing other people and doing things for other people, then I can take that, but I can't do it if it's about me as a person. And so actually to put myself in a position where I was really uncomfortable.
Pushed yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think any time I'm sure you've done like many, many speaking engagements before that, but it nearly maybe felt like the first one. But the first time I remember speaking, it was to like 5 people, but in my head it was to 10,000 people. And I was really, really psyching myself up in the moment.
Yeah.
And even though that's 3 minutes, I'm sure at the end of that it's felt like 300 hours of work that you've had to put in for those 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
Preparing and all of those things. So that's really, really fantastic. I would love to go to EuroPerio.
Do you know, I'm going to Vienna now in May.
Are you?
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing. It's amazing just to see the amount of work that's being done, the research that's being done, the different little niches of thought, but how these things can impact each other and what has to be researched. It is fantastic.
And I love being in a room where all those brains are excited by the one thing.
Yeah.
Because I have my, of course, geek out moments about and perio is my, I mean, I am a dental therapist. Though I'm very much drawn towards the perio.
Are you qualified in both hygiene and therapy? Okay.
But I decided a while ago that my true main passion is perio.
That's same as me.
Right, and I can't get enough of it. And I remember hearing things in those situations and wanting to write it on the side of a bus because I'm like, everybody needs to know. And there's some obviously fantastic people. Claire Louise, is amazing. She has that real energy that I think
is right. And she is so infectious.
Yes. She was here at our BSDHT Spring Study Day, and she'll be back for the Women's Oral Health Roadshow. I'll link that in the description. But I love having people around that are infectious.
Yeah.
I think when we all get together it is an exciting mix. Michaela, self-doubt creeps in for most people at some point. Have you ever experienced that in your career? And how do you check in with yourself to know that you're on the right path?
Self-doubt. I don't think there's a day that I wake up that I don't doubt what I'm thinking or saying or doing or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's only normal, isn't it?
It is.
Please tell me because it's human, because I feel that I don't ever want to be arrogant. But I do want to be assertive.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice balance, isn't it, to be able to get the two together, and it doesn't always happen. So yes, there are times when I will have self-doubt, and what I do to check myself in, Rachel, it was easy with BSDHT or with the International Federation of Dental Hygienists because I wasn't there for me. It wasn't about me.
Yes.
It was there for the best of the profession. So anything that I stood up for or I believed in, I'd be thinking, is that the right thing for our profession? And it was much easier to get a balance when you're removing your personal thoughts and feelings about something and you're thinking about the practicalities and going forward from there. So yes, that is always a way to measure it out. You were just talking there about things that were standout pinch me moments. Again, with self-doubt, there was a television advert came on TV one time for Roundtree's fruit pastels.
Yes.
And it was a great kids one. It showed, I don't know if you remember the numbskulls, but it showed this inside this person's head and all these little sweets and all loving the taste, and you're getting the taste and it's making the child happy. And I said, that's not a really good message for children. It's showing them that eating sweets is going to give them a lovely smile. That's the way it was kind of looked at. So I thought, should I do something about this? And now this is what I'm talking about, self-doubt. Oh, no, that's just me thinking that. And then, no, but it's our profession. We need to kind of stand up here and say, we believe it's not a good thing to advertise sweets for children's smiles. Have sweets all you want, but don't say it's going to be good for your smile. So I did. I wrote to them and they actually took the ad down. Now, it must have cost millions to make it, but they took it down. And honestly, it was only on air for a couple of weeks. So that was a pinch me moment, but it was balanced by the fact that I had to take myself out of that and say what's best for our profession. And we got recognition for being the people that did.
And if you had have listened to that seed of self-doubt, that could have been very negatively impactful if you had have let that, you know, the way sometimes you see that little drawing and it's like a spider or something and somebody draws a ring around it and the spider doesn't move past the ring that you've drawn on the page. Yes. And I feel like sometimes that can happen a lot.
I love that analogy. I'm going to use that.
Because it's perception of barrier as opposed to barrier that sometimes I need to remind myself, because I think also we're very, very good at shouting out about other people. I could shout out about somebody else till the cows come home. Yeah. But sometimes having that little bit of self-belief can be a hard one to harness and then do it, as you say, assertiveness, but you're not standing up there and saying, look at me, I'm brilliant. And thing is, look at me, I know what I'm talking about. And I feel like you should be interested in what I have to say.
So nicely put. I can see why you do the podcast now. So nicely put.
Michaela, you also work with Oral-B.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role there and how did that opportunity come about? It must be so exciting to work with such a huge body like Oral-B as a brand and as a platform as well.
I love it. I really, really love it. I always loved hygiene, as you talked about with Perio being your passion. I love that feeling. I love the Dr. Pimple Popper feeling. I love the, I love having it clear at the end and everything's gorgeous and healthy and really nice. I really do. And I loved my patients. I had a great time with them. But when I became president of BSDHT, I actually was the manager of BSDHT, if you can manage it. We had to do all of the business side of things, making the business decisions, managing the budgets, and I was responsible for all of that, let's say. And I did cut all my days down to 1 day a week for that role. So I was only working for David McKay, who was brilliant. I love David. So I was working with him for 1 day a week in a practice, and then the rest of the days I was working for BSDHT as a president. And I really loved all that business side of things. I did a lot then about making sure that we outsourced all of our admin to getting our own premises and hiring our own people. So there was a lot of business stuff that I really loved. And the promotion of the society in the general public as well. So we did a lot of work on getting our name into the papers and things like that so that we could alert the public to what dental hygienists are and what they do and the importance of them. And then afterwards, through that, I would have met quite a few people that worked with Oral-B, different companies actually. Yeah. One woman in particular, Kate, worked with Oral-B, and I remember saying to her at a European meeting, "Oh, I'd love to do business. I'd really love to do that." I just realised. And then I went home and I wrote down all the things I loved about the job I did with BSDHT and all the things I loved about the job that I did as a hygienist and the teacher and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'd love my job to look like. And I know everybody calls it manifesting now.
Yes.
But I honestly believe that I manifested this job.
I completely agree with you, yes.
Because I got a phone call from Kate saying there's a job advertised that might be of interest to you.
Yes.
And I went for the job and got it.
That's incredible. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role, of what that involves?
Yeah, I'm the Senior Professional and Scientific Relations Manager for the UK and Ireland.
Wow.
What does that mean? I don't even know if I can put it into words, but I would work with KOLs, so like Claire Barry that you were talking about, and quite a few different people, a lot of hygienists, and Ian Dunn, and there's a lot of people that I would work with. But my job is to do that and also to look after the education in the schools, the dental schools for the UK and Ireland. You know the way the rep would have come in to see you and talk to you about some of the technologies behind Oral-B and sample you with your Oral-B brush, yeah?
Yes.
So I run that whole programme now. It's become an awful lot more complicated than it did when I was first here, but we would look after that. I would look after a lot of the education, the webinars, the stuff that you would do along that vein. And I would maybe take some of the research that's being done out there and translate that and speak to different people about it. I'm a big believer in not pushing our product when we talk education. I think it speaks for itself anyway. I mean, the reason I'm there is because I actually really do like Oral-B, and that's what I used in myself. And I don't believe that that's what you need to learn when you're in a lecture. You need to learn, about what you want to hear. Obviously, that's what you're there for. But what is really good is that the people that we use love our products as well as I do. I can just say this is the topic that they want to talk about, and they'll go off and do their own presentations. I don't have to stand over their shoulder.
And I think as well with something like Oral-B and Oral-B IO was, I just think, a complete game changer for us as hygienists. Test drive, I know that we did have test drive pre-IO and now it's predominantly IO, but what a fantastic initiative for us as clinicians to be able to have access to that. It's something that has changed my job completely.
Oh, fantastic.
And then aside from that, of course, you have all the product.
Yeah, stannous fluoride.
Yes, stannous fluoride. And we back Oral-B as dental hygienists and dental therapists because we believe in it.
100%. Well, they do spend an awful lot of time and money and invest a lot in the research behind stuff. They do the right thing for people. Yes. They want to make sure their products are the best they can possibly be. So, yeah.
Yes, that's fantastic. For anyone looking to work with a dental brand as an educator or a clinical advisor, key opinion leader, what advice would you give, Michaela? How can they set themselves up for opportunities like that? Because it feels like sometimes if you're sitting in your little dental surgery, that can be a bit of a reach.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of different ways that you can get involved. One would be if you do start wanting to be noticed by a company, and I'm not just talking about Oral-B, it's really good to put stuff on social media, because they do draw on social media to see who's doing what, who's saying what.
About things.
Yeah, and having a follower. They're looking for influential people. So influence is not just academic, which is what it had been for years. Influence is definitely more to do with how you get your ideas over to other people.
Yes.
And your thoughts. So that's always a way to try to start to break into it. Now, if you're looking to actually work for a company, instead of doing a dental hygiene career, then you would need to be looking at their job sites, and you're looking for different types. I mean, I know we call it territory managers, but we would have looked at reps. That's one role. Another one would be looking for, in our side, it's PSR, which is a professional and scientific relations module. So it's a very small part of Oral-B. So there's very few people in this role, but all companies will have something similar, like a scientific expert or something along those lines. And another area in a company that you might be interested in is doing R&D, research and development.
Yes.
Especially if they've got oral products, that might work very well too. So it's a matter of being able to look at their company websites, check their job specs, and seeing where you could fit into it.
Yes.
I'd be really interested to know if people are interested in jobs like that, or where they go to look for it. I wonder, is it's a big thing?
Yeah.
I have seen on the social media sites that people are asking more about, I want to do something different, and I totally get that, because even as a clinician, I was still teaching, I was lecturing, I was working for a company, I was doing lots of different things at that time. So I couldn't have settled just 5 days a week.
I think that it's such, so dental hygiene is such a brilliant role, and there's no getting away from how amazing it is, but it's a repetitive role. And I think sometimes maybe diverting some attention away from it on a 5-day basis can make you more passionate about it on a 2-3 day basis.
Absolutely.
If you have a little extra area of interest, I'm not going to call it a side hustle, not really a side hustle, but if you have a little extra area of interest, I think that can be super beneficial for you from a clinical standpoint as well, because obviously you're seeing new things, you're thinking about things in a new way, you're exploring new opportunities, you're pushing yourself, but then you come back to your roots and it rejuvenates you for practice.
It adds to what your day-to-day role is if you can experience all this stuff. When I taught, I also did a little bit of work for a company called Optident, who are now bought over by Henry Schein. And they had introduced the airflow EMS. That's way before all the GBT stuff started. So we were doing a little bit of work with them, and we'd do shows. But then I could come back and in the hospital, then I could talk to the students about, well, this is what you need to look at, or look at those instruments. These are the differences. This is what's good. This is so the technical side of it is really important, and it just fuels you to give much better information to other people. I think I learned that after I'd qualified. I don't know how you felt after you qualified, but I felt that I knew it all.
I think there's never going to be a person as confident as a newly qualified person, and then you go out, and then I know we talked about self-doubt before, but all of these little what-ifs come into your head. I suppose nothing comes to you, really. You need to go to it. You need to...
There is definitely a need for you to be more proactive in your socialising, and it's a big reason that I believe that the BSDHT regional groups are so important, or any of those kind of meetings are important. I'm not just talking about BSDHT, any of them, because it's a lonely job for a start. You're usually the only hygienist that's working on that day, so you don't have anybody who's on the same wavelength in relation to what you're doing, how you're feeling. Sometimes there can be problems with where do you actually fit in the team. So it can be difficult. And having other people who feel exactly the same as you is fantastic. But not only is it great that you have that network to support you and make you feel balanced, and you could air your grievances, or you can discuss problems that you're having and have good answers, but you also get the chance then to meet trade and other people. And that's the way that you start to build up your network, so that you can diverse if needs be. you know?
Yes. And as well, with our job, it's physically demanding too.
Well, that was my problem, yeah.
Maybe times in all of our careers whenever 5 days clinical time doesn't suit us.
I have never worked 5 days clinically.
It's intense.
I've always started on a 4, and that was it for the rest of my time. I always did 4, but I would do something else on the other day.
Yes.
And I knew it was time to give up when I had to use my loops to read my notes. So there's no way that I can do this anymore.
If you, Michaela, could write a letter at the start of your career to yourself now, what would it say? Are there any lessons that you'd want to pass on to newly qualified, raring to go, Michaela?
Well, I don't think you know it all. Yeah, as it says, once I qualified, I did feel I knew everything. I've just come out of a university, and of course I've got the most up-to-date information. Yes. And it was a real eye-opener to find out that was not the case. I mean, a friend of mine who qualified with me said, "Did you read this article, Michaela, about smoking maybe having a problem with gums?" And I'm like, for goodness sake, they blame smoking and everything, don't they? Because I smoked at the time, you know. Yeah, rode forward then for another year, and of course everybody's obviously talking about the effects of cigarettes on your own health. And it taught me that we have to constantly learn. And so I'm with you. You just talked about the whole. The networking, the education, the constantly pushing yourself is probably what will give you the most comfortable and rewarding career.
Yes. No regrets.
No regrets. No. Keep going.
Try it. Go for it.
That's it.
And I think sometimes whenever you come into your career at the beginning, you just want to be at work, but actually what makes you more well-rounded is the extracurricular side of it, and you need to nearly give that the same focus as you do clinically to feel like a full and
it's important for your mental health.
Yes,
I think an awful lot of people who feel, oh, they don't respect me in this practice, I was doing these 20-minute appointments, I'm on that hamster wheel, would really benefit from going to meetings with other people.
Yes,
I honestly do think it would change their attitude. They'd find a way to be able to voice it in a much better way.
And even just knowing that a friend or you sit beside somebody at one of these events is experiencing something similar to you, that you're not crazy, is so great.
And learning how they have actually managed to change their perspective or what's happened to them. Is it a matter, do I have to leave this practice? Is it a matter that there's...
Yeah, of course it is. You do just have to. Sometimes you can be a square peg in a round hole.
Absolutely.
You're not going to find what you're looking for, and what you're looking for is available. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's just you need to...
It's having that security and that network behind you to be secure in yourself and making the right decisions.
And think brave.
And also realise that you have to have what they call a growth mindset. Yes. And that even if you do make a mistake and it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, what did you learn from that? Because then it's a positive. Yes. And then you can go, right, well, I'm not going to do that the next time. Let's move on to the next one. What will we look at? It really is a matter of how you change your perspective on this.
And I think as well, there's a lot of things around growth, and not just growth in hygiene, but personal growth. If you invest in that a bit, that is massively beneficial to your career. And it feels like it's not dental hygiene and dental therapy, but it is. There's always a way where it relates.
Absolutely.
Back. There's a huge demand now, Michaela, for dental hygiene services, but not enough professionals to meet the demand.
Really?
It's a bit of a tale as old as time.
Really?
What advice would you give to someone considering this as a career path, whether they're from a dental nursing background or completely new to the industry like I was?
Okay. I think it's a great profession to go into. I think you'll be really fulfilled, and it's quite a flexible profession too, in that you can do this, and I hate to say that because it sounds like it's female oriented, it's not, but you can do it around your family, male or female, and that flexibility gives you a lot of satisfaction in life.
Yes.
I don't know what I would say. There's a huge demand. You could end up working 5 days a week. I would really, really, really love to see the school open up in Belfast again. I think that's where my heart would really lie. I have spoken to Caroline Lappin and Breed Hendren and everyone, and they all seem to be of the same ilk, yet it just nothing seems to be done. And again, I think that's because they can't see the importance of how this skill mix actually works. But we've got a huge dearth of NHS patients who are not being seen and not being treated. There's a lot of people who never go to the dentist or the dental hygienist. The people we do see are what they commonly refer to as the worried well. They're the people who actually are concerned about their health and they want to make sure they've been checked with all those other people.
We don't touch them,
So there's huge work to be done out there. There's lots of work to be done. Why can't we invest in a structure that is going to allow us to train up dental hygienists and therapists to get out there and do what we can really do very well?
Yes.
I mean, I can't think of any other profession that is as good as us when it comes to helping to change behaviours around oral hygiene. I honestly can't. I have never seen anybody else do it as well. And that's probably why we do the jobs we do, okay? Yes. We're very good at it. And I think that's really important when it comes to the oral health, systemic health. You want to go on about everything that's going on in the body. But the linchpin here is really making sure we've got that oral biome where it should be.
And hopefully that catches the interests of somebody thinking about their career and thinking about how they can be impactful there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 years at dental school and coming out.
No, absolutely. Well, sure, The Economist did that report, didn't they, with European Federation of Periodontology, where they were able to show the cost of prevention, actually how much you save by treating gingivitis.
Yes.
That was what it was. Because obviously if you can treat gingivitis, when you get the first signs, it's not going to progress.
Yes.
And they were able to highlight all of that and put a price on the prevention of oral health. And it's something that the WHO have really backed now. And you're finding that people are saying this is where we need to really invest our money. As soon as the bleeding starts, that's when we really should be investing our time. Yes. And the time that we should be investing is actually on oral hygiene instruction or education, as they like to call it now, so not better what to do. But so, and that there's bound to be a huge demand for people in our profession if we do listen to what the evidence is showing us.
Yes. And I hope that so many people will get a chance to listen to this, or if you are listening to this and you know somebody that you think would be a fantastic dental hygienist or dental therapist, please share with them the benefits of the job, because we would love to have more like-minded, fantastic people on board. Who do you find inspiring in dentistry? Anyone whose career or impact really stands out to you?
Oh, there's lots of people who are inspirational. The person who I admired most for a long time was a woman called Margaret Ross. I don't know if you know Margaret.
I don't know Margaret.
She taught in Edinburgh and Glasgow. She did a lot of work in the Scottish government with hygienists. She actually started the first 4-year honours course for hygiene and therapy. She's done so much education-wise. But what I really admired about her was that she didn't take any prisoners.
Yes.
And she had the evidence behind her. She did a lot of research and stuff. So she knew when she was talking that she was doing it well. She did it really well. So she admired me. She played the piano brilliantly. She's fun and brilliantly. Everything about her was just a normal person, but she was incredible. Yes. So I'm saying was like she's not there anymore. She is obviously, but she's retired. Okay, that's what I mean. Like, she was really good. And then the other people that inspire me are particularly like Fiona Sandham, and there's another couple like Claire McCarthy and Van, and that have all gone on to do their doctorates, their PhDs. And this is inspiring because I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I know Fiona and I are very similar when it comes to our educational background. And she has ended up with a doctorate. So regardless of not having this string of letters after our names, she's now a doctor, Fiona Sandham. And she's more qualified than most of the people that she will work with. I just think that again helps us to push the boundaries of dental hygiene and therapy so that we are beginning to see that we're capable of so much more than people inside that spider soil, okay? We're way outside that.
Yes.
And we have to keep pushing at that, because if we don't, then we're going to stay where we are. We need to be able to move with the times.
We had Rosie Murphy on, who has very openly shared about being dyslexic, also having autism, that has been able to get into Glasgow School for Oral Health Sciences, which I think is just such an amazing achievement. And I think dental hygiene and dental therapy fosters that aspect of education, because there's such a massive practical element to it, and you understand why you need to know about cross-infection and why you need to know about materials, and it's not just sitting there not making sense of things. Everything has its place, and I think, and then you just open that funnel into masters and looking at nutritional therapy. I know Nina Farmer's amazing with that, and then going into your doctorate. Wow, incredible.
Why couldn't you? Why couldn't any of us do that? And I think it really has opened it up for all of us. Well, I do. I'm going to think about where I see the profession going. Now, this is really where I get on my soapbox. And I had promised myself, I'm standing back. I'm doing nothing anymore, okay? It's time for everybody else to do this. I am going to do nothing, but I can't help myself sometimes. And I do think that we need to relook at what we call ourselves. There's a lot of problems with our titles as dental hygienists and dental therapists, and it segregates us instead of uniting us. And I really don't like that. Okay,
I like it.
I think we need to look at what the public refer to us or know us by, and then maybe either we keep one of the titles and lose the other, or, which is probably better really in the long term, is to have a new terminology for all of our professions. And what we do underneath that umbrella terminology is act like nurses. So you can be a nurse practitioner, you can be a specialist nurse, you can have all of the different areas. So for your likes of yourself and me, perio would be our bread and butter. It's what we really want to be working on. There'd be other people that would really like to work with kids all day long. There'd be other people that really want to work on the restorative side and the toothwash side, and possibly even to work on more aesthetic dentistry and working. So we could actually have this fantastic umbrella terminology, and inside that we could start to diversify and hopefully get recognised for our specialist interests, which we can't do at the moment, and work onto that.
I was listening to Claire and Ben's podcast, Dental Besties, and I love it. But they were sort of talking about how we are exploring, like we did with exemptions and things, we are exploring, like somebody maybe within my role but would like to move into a more special interest perio side. You know, if there could be a pathway to do that, wouldn't be that be so exciting.
There's so many qualifications you can do now to do this. But the thing is, the GDC don't recognise it. Because we can't have specialisms. So I think there's definitely grounds for looking at changing the legislation around our title and our part. So we recognise the autonomy, we recognise the speciality, and we work with our peers, we work with dentists that we work with, but that we can be actually confident and capable clinicians within our own right too. And we have something to aspire to.
Exactly. You know, because I think sometimes it feels like there is a ceiling, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, to show that there isn't a ceiling.
There isn't.
In any aspect of dentistry throughout the whole wider team, there will be, if you want to improve and level up and you have aspirations, you can believe in yourself and you can get there. So what's next? You said that, Michaela, that you were stepping back a little bit. The men we're still always will be leaning in, I'm sure. But what's next for you? How do you see your role evolving within dental hygiene, and what's the next big goal on the horizon?
Well, within dental hygiene, I haven't worked clinically in 5 years now, which is, so much has changed even in that time. And I can't see myself, unfortunately, ever going back clinically again. And I do miss that, but what would I like to see? Well, I would really love to see some change in the legislation around our title. I'd love to see some recognition for what we are capable of doing. I'm loving the fact that you were talking about neurodiversity in hygiene and therapy, because I think if you did a survey, you would find that we have all, and I think maybe that needs to be recognised, that this is something that's going to be really quite helpful. Because you can grow within this and flourish. When I work with Oral-B, I would really love to be able to highlight what we can do as a profession within Oral-B. It's very different as a condition to come into this.
Yes.
Especially when you're working with people who are used to branding and all of this stuff, and they know what the public wants. They do a lot of consumer research, and you're pushing against it going, but this was my daily day in, day out, how to change people's brushing behaviours. That can be difficult, but I would love to have the recognition for our role in big companies like this.
Yes.
Really highlighted. But what I think is really good about working with Oral-B is that I'm in the same role as lots of dentists. We're all in the same banding, we're all on the same platform. There's no one better, no one worse, and that's really quite good. And I'd love to see myself progress more in Oral-B, definitely. I'd love to see the hygienist role to be recognised in the advertising of Oral-B products.
Oh, that would be... Can you imagine? That would be, oh my goodness, incredible.
That's something I've been pushing at, and I've been pushing because we've got this diverse title. I can't say dental hygienist and therapist because it's like so long. It's not really, snap bite. Yeah, exactly. So I keep trying to push for dental professionals so that we have an inclusive title. But you know what?
How amazing would that be to have on TV?
Wouldn't it?
An advert, because so many people see the dental hygienist or dental therapist 4 times a year. They see them more than the dentist sometimes. Some of them are on a yearly dental health check, but they see us on plan, off plan, here, all privately, of course. But
doesn't matter. It's not late.
I'd love that.
I think it should be. I remember years ago when I was with BSHT, I brokered a deal with GSK to do an advertisement to actually go around all the regional groups and interviewed people, and then they picked one to do the advertisement on television. It was yesterday an advertisement, and on the bottom of it we had put British Society of Dental Hygiene and Therapy. It was a way of getting our name out there. But I'd love to see if we could do that again, to use a hygienist.
I think that would be very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. Amazing. I love that. Michaela, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing fangirl chat for me. I've loved every second of it. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you for asking again.
Loved it. And yes, looking forward to seeing what the future brings. I love it. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this episode. But honestly, I could have talked to Michaela for hours. Her journey is such a powerful reminder that our roles as dental professionals don't have to stay confined to the surgery. There are so many ways to make an impact, whether that's through education, advocacy, or shaping the future of the profession from the ground up. If you're feeling inspired and wondering how to get more involved, I've linked a few key resources in the show notes for you. BSDHT membership. If you're not already a member, now's the time. There are so many opportunities to have your voice heard and make a real difference. EuroPerio. If you're scheming to go, because, same here, I've popped a link with more information about what to expect. Exemptions training. If that's still on your to-do list, I've included a direct link which will help you get started. And finally, the Women's Oral Health Roadshow. If you missed the Belfast date, don't panic. There are still events happening across the UK, and those links are in the show notes as well. As always, if you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a colleague, leave a quick review for us, or tag us in your socials at Conversations with Dental Friends. It really helps spread the word and build a brilliant dental community. You can follow us over on Instagram. I'm over there too at Homegirl Hygienist. I'm Rachel. See you next week for another episode. Thanks so much for listening.